The gospel reading today ends with words that we pretty much take for granted. Truly, you are the Son of God. We've heard that 1,000 times. We believe that. We come from years, centuries of that understanding and that conviction, that belief. But it wasn't so at the time this gospel was written. And so what I'd like to do a little bit this morning is to put Matthew's gospel into some context. And I know some of you in the scripture class may have heard this before, so you can talk among yourselves for a few minutes. I didn't mean that seriously. But I do want to give you some background because I think it may help as you listen to the gospel from now until December, which will all be Matthew's gospel. And he comes from a particular place. And so I went into my bag of complicated words, and I came up with the words cognitive dissonance. Okay? Some of you may have heard that. But I want to explain that a little bit because it's important to understand that, to understand Matthew, and to understand even the challenge that we have in our own lives as growing and maturing Christians. Cognitive dissonance is a condition that we've all had. It's a condition that human beings, by the way, cannot live with. Cognitive dissonance is that experience where your belief in your head doesn't match what you know from your experience. Okay, so you have a thought up here, cognition, you have an idea, a concept, a conviction, a belief that's in your head that you know is true, and then you experience something and you know that is true also, but the two don't jive. Human beings cannot live in that state. One or the other is going to win out, either your conviction or your experience. But the two that are in disconnection or in dissonance cannot remain within our beings. It's just impossible to have both at the same time. For example, if I say to you, parents love their children, but my parents beat me. The conviction is my parents love me because they love their children, but my experience is my parents beat me. Those two cannot jive. Either I'm going to have to assume, my parents really don't love me, or I'm going to have to come to the conclusion that my experience is right, that my parents do love me, but I'm beaten because I deserve it. One of the two are going to happen. And we find that a lot of times in situations of domestic violence. Either I deserve it and the experience is okay, or this person really doesn't love me and my conviction has to change. But one of the two has to make a move here. One of these two realities in our head or in our experience. And what's interesting is when we make that move, a lot of times we put more credence in the experience, but it causes us to kind of grow. It causes us to grow in understanding about, well, what does it really mean to be a parent? What is parental love about? And let me come to another conclusion. I'm going to change my conviction, and my conviction now is maybe all parents don't love their children properly, and it might even affect my future as a future parent. So I can grow in understanding when I resolve this cognitive dissonance. Okay, it happens all the time. How about all clergy are meant to serve the good of their people. And then we have people that are abused by clergy. One or the other has to win out in that. And today, for example, even as I look at our congregation, because we welcome divorced Catholics, marriage is forever. That's a cognitive conviction and a belief. Yet the experience is divorce exists. So much so that the Synod of Bishops coming in October are going to actually, or hopefully, planning on discussing how to minister and be a pastoral presence to divorced Catholics. So they are already attempting to resolve this cognitive dissonance. Marriage isn't forever. Our experience tells us that there is divorce. Now, what do we do with those two opposing realities or beliefs or experiences? What do we do? So even the church is trying to to resolve that. And we have to, as individuals and as a corporate body. That's what Matthew's dealing with. That's the key to Matthew's whole gospel today. And Matthew's whole gospel that you're going to hear for the rest of the year. He has the Jews. He's writing to Jews. His audience is Jewish. The Jews believe from Deuteronomy, the 5th book of the Torah, the Jewish law, he who hangs from a tree is cursed. He who is hung by a tree, who hangs on a tree, is evil. Jesus was hung on the wood of a cross, on the tree. He is a false Messiah. He is at best a failed Messiah. That is their conviction. Okay, if you were an observant Jew in the 1st century, you would know that line from Deuteronomy, and you would say this person is a failed or a false Messiah. Then we have all these years of experience where people experience the resurrected Christ, experience new life, experience this beautiful wonder worker, this ministerial person that accepted and was hospitable to everybody and welcomed and forgave people and encouraged their faith and didn't judge them. And this experience was carried on for years and years and years and years verbally. They talked about it. Matthew didn't write his gospel till about 50 years after Jesus died. For 50 years, people talked about their experience of this charismatic, mystical person to the point where Matthew comes right out and says, truly, you are the Son of God. You are not a false Messiah. You are not a failed Messiah. You are the Son of God. So he's trying to resolve this cognitive dissonance. He's trying to resolve with the Jews who he's writing to, this is not a person hanging from a tree that's evil. The experience tells us the exact opposite, that he truly is the Son of God. See the impact that that would have to a Jew in the 1st century. And if you hear Matthew's gospel throughout the rest of this year until December, think of it in those terms. Think of it coming from a mindset that just can't accept the fact, because Torah, the law, says that this person is not the true Messiah, and yet our experience has been so different. It's been so fantastic. We here at Good Shepherd Church are also called to look upon those things in our lives where we may have a conviction or a belief, and the Scriptures challenge us now to take a look at our experience, to re-examine maybe that belief, and to maybe reinterpret that belief. I had the pleasure of meeting with Carol Wood and with Woody before they left, when they told me about a week before they left, and what the experience of Good Shepherd Church meant for them. Now, these are Roman Catholics who probably grew up like I did and like you did, that said there's only one true religion, the Roman Catholic Church. If you're anything else, you got a problem in the next life. Okay? The doors are only open to Roman Catholics. That's a conviction. And yet they through experiences with Bishop Paul, with Bishop Brian, with Father Jack, they came to an experience that said, well, this is really a beautiful outreach here, and this is such a warm family, and it's so supportive. That's a perfect example of people who right here, right now, were so filled with that experience of what you, as a church, have offered to them, that they were in tears to leave this church, and probably not in any hope of finding something similar in the area they're living in Florida. So Carol and Woody, we do miss you, and we wish you the best if you should happen to be watching this. And anyone else who is looking that has trouble in their lives trying to match their conviction with this uncertain experience that's going on, we're here at 5230 Clark Avenue in Lakewood, California. Okay? Come by and experience the kind of family that exists right here in Lakewood, right here at Good Shepherd Church. And that dramatic ending today. And that's why I say it's a sledgehammer. Matthew is saying to his Jewish audience, if you didn't quite hear the whisper of God, okay, let me tell you something. He multiplied loaves and fishes and fed 5,000 people with the 5 loaves and 3 fishes. Boom! Big splash, big drama. Bang! You get it? He is the Son of God. How about today? He's going to walk on water. Do you get it now? In case you didn't catch the whisper, let me tell it to you really clearly. It's okay to experience God's goodness in the present and to redefine what it means to be a child of God and a Christian. So my brothers and sisters, it's okay for us to step out of that rowboat of security. It's okay to step out into the waters of uncertainty, into what feels very uncomfortable and maybe even lacking some foundation. But also know that we can reach out to a hand that will hold us, a hand that will be there for us, a hand that will keep us from sinking into the abyss, from sinking into despair, from sinking into that uncertainty and frustration. And that hand is the Spirit of Christ alive today in His church. And allow ourselves to take that hand and to move forward, reinterpret and redefine our lives as Christians, and to redefine and grow as a church, as a family of God. And now as church and as a family, we support each other with our presence and with our faith as we say, I believe.